And welcome to the Fightful Boxing Podcast. Today is June 18 now, at least on the East Coast. I'm Toro alongside the Stephen Muehlhausen. And Stephen, we have a lot to talk about for a boxing pay-per-view that went about very, very quickly, but a lot has happened in the 4 fights that we had. How you doing?
You know what? I am awake. I am alert. And we have a fight card that ended before midnight in Central Time. So even on the East Coast, it ended almost a little bit. What, was it a little bit after midnight? It ended on the East Coast? It was about, broadcast went off at, about 5:10 after 12 out there. So no, it's still here in Chicago. It's rainy. My cable almost went out in about the 4th round. But luckily, good old Xfinity survived and kicked some ass for me to get me through the fight. But a quick night of fights, but also I thought a very exciting night of fights where you've seen some young stars shine, a questionable decision in the co-main event, and then someone cementing their legacy in the main event.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, young stars. I mean, let's start first with Luis Arias, the USBA middleweight champion. He looked damn impressive in his starting off. I'm going to try to get the name right. Magomedov.
Arif Magomedov.
Yeah, that. Looked very impressive. Gets a 5th round stoppage win. Looked very, very good. He's a guy that's going to be a guy to watch out for in the middleweight ranks. I was watching the fight with my dad, and he kind of noticed the same way. Like, he looked a little bit small. Not small, but a little too skinny for 160 pounds. But he looked good. I thought the right hand was superb, especially with the way he got the win. What did you see from Arias?
Right what I've seen him before, it was about right what I expected. It was a very... He's a very powerful puncher. That's the one thing that I had forgotten about. Thought he was a little slick, but he came in for the power shots because he realized, as what you just said, Magomedov very skinny for 160, and where Arias could maybe fight at 168. So that power did come up. That power did show in the fight, and that was an obliteration from start to finish. I thought a very good performance. He remains undefeated. You know, and it's a guy that I'm not saying right now, but if you go 4 or 5 more fights down the line, I think he's onto something. He remains undefeated with John David Jackson. And it looked like that was going to be a precursor to what we would see in the main event. We'll get to that in a minute, but a very good performance by Luis Arias, and Magomedov, maybe he should go down to 54.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it wasn't Arias that looked skinny. Magomedov also looked pretty skinny. I mean, and for the most part, he just looked, like he was trying to get some punches into the body, I thought, early into the fight, but it's like he had no answer for Arias' right hand. A lot of times I saw his left hand just was not going up to defend the right hand, and I think that was his undoing. He, defensively, Magomedov didn't really have a good game plan heading into this fight.
No, not at all. I don't get with some of these guys that, they're starting out in their careers, and it's like, what are you doing? What advice are you getting? And if you're getting the right advice, listen to it. And if you're not getting the right advice at this young stage of your career, maybe it's time that maybe you should go switch trainers. And maybe that's something Magomedov maybe needs to think about. I don't know. I don't know his camp very well. So maybe looking at the fight, I don't think the game plan was very smart. I would have kept it to the outside. I would have tried to keep the jab. He had a slight reach advantage. So in that situation, when you have any type of reach advantage, you have to really circle the ring, pop the jab, and let that. And then it'll allow you to get to the inside. Because a power puncher like Arias, he's gonna be reluctant to come onto the inside because he knows he's going to get popped with the jab. So if he did that, then he could have established a better game plan. He could have came in with more power shots. He didn't do that. He seemed content to be there. And the end result ended up what happened.
Yep, we go from Luis Arias, who looked really well, to another prospect, Dimitri Bivol, who looked really impressive. He beat Cedric Agnew with a fourth-round TKO. I mean, he came into this fight with a lot of hype as at the light heavyweight division's next big star in the making, and he looked every bit the part as that next star. I mean, his power, his accuracy was very, very good when it needed to be. The power was there. He nearly stopped Cedric Agnew in that first round. He knocked him down midway for the first round. I thought his punching was superb, and Agnew, all he could do was survive because he didn't throw jack. You know what?
He's awful. And you know, you look at his losses before that point, and one of the losses was to Kovalev. And it was more in the Kovalev fight that I really noticed. And I've seen Agnew fight about 5-6 times. And the one thing I've noticed is when he's facing lower caliber opponents, he has a lot of confidence. He feels loose. And when it comes to the bigger fights and guys that are better than him, he shells up like a turtle. And that's what, and I was really hoping when I was getting ready to watch this fight, I'm like, let's see what he's doing. And I'm eating a chicken sandwich at the time. So I'm like, man, I want to eat my sandwich. I didn't get to finish eating my sandwich until actually right before the main event started. But give credit to Bivol, because I think Bivol is that's the future at 175 pounds. But Agnew had to put up something. And that was a glorified sparring session. And they were saying it during the broadcast, and I agreed with that. I didn't agree with much of what Roy Jones said this evening, but this was one of them. Bivol had a harder competition in sparring than he did in this fight. He got paid to fight inside the ring on Saturday night. Agnew is a joke. I would revoke his license for the way he fought this evening. He only threw 11 punches in 3 rounds and only landed 3. You landed 1 punch a round. Get the heck out of here. Go do something else. You're not a professional boxer. If you want to fight, if you want to act like that, he looked like the bully. He looked like the bully when you're in school. You got the big guy picking on the younger guy, and the little guy is going like this, trying not to get hit. That's what I saw this evening. It was a disgraceful performance by Mr. Agnew. Horrible.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's as much as I would love to give credit to Bivol for that outstanding performance he had. Really, Cedric Agnew just looked playing awful. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. I mean, you're right. I think this was handpicked for Bivol to be absolutely,
No, I'll cut you off right there. This wasn't the original opponent, for people that don't know. He was supposed to face Sullivan Barrera. But Barrera got a better opportunity and to get a main event spot, get a highlight spot. He's facing Joe Smith Jr. on July 15th. This was supposed to be a harder fight. Agnew just happened to be the next guy there, the next best guy available who was willing to fight. So I just wanted to clear it up before you go further, just so you know. I don't want to downgrade Bivol at all. He's a stud. Plain and simple, he's a stud. It isn't his fault. Not his fault at all, I don't think, that Agnew didn't show up. Me or you, Carlos, and any of our fans that are watching, you guys and me and you could have put in a better showing today. We would have thrown more than 11 punches and would have landed more than 3. I guarantee that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I'll find. Listen, if Conor McGregor can somehow manage to land more than 11 punches on Floyd Mayweather come August, I'm pretty sure that you and I can do the same to Dimitri Bivol. But yeah, he looked absolutely incredible. He looked like a stud out there. And listen, I would have much rather have had Sullivan Barrera in this situation. But listen, he had the better, he got a more exciting, or at least a more, I don't know if you want to call this a more high-profile fight. I guess maybe because of the fact that it's Joe Smith Jr., the guy who retired Bernard Hopkins. But I would have much rather seen Barrera versus Bivol. I can assure you that. But
and it's a fight also. Maybe we see down the line. I don't know. I think Joe Smith wins that fight in July. That's just comparing the two. But I can't. It's not Bivol's fault. Barrera took up another fight. And so be it. It is what it is. Bivol really wanted to be on this card, though, and I talked to him last week. And you sit and you listen to this guy. All this guy wants to do is fight. He took this fight while he was on vacation. His management called him. He had just come off a big win in the main event on Showbox, and he was like, you know what? They called him like, hey, do you want to fight on Sergey Kovalev? He's like, sign me up. Not knowing who the opponent was, Carlos. Not even knowing. This guy's just a straight-up gangster. Plain and simple. You look at him, this kid's a straight-out assassin. Just the way his body control, the way his movement. He didn't waste too much motion. Simple, using his hips, turning correctly, maximizing his power, but also not expending too much energy. I was very, very impressed with Dmitry Bivol. He's got a big fight coming up. He's the mandatory for the winner of the main event. That's how good this kid is already.
We'll discuss the main event in just a quick second. But
absolutely.
Listen, it's hard to jump to the main event when we had probably the most controversial 3 minutes we've had in a very long time in the sport. Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Moises Flores. Rigondeaux won via a knockout at the end of the first round, but for those that weren't able to tune into the fight, here's what happened. So Rigondeaux.
No, go ahead. I'm just chuckling in when you said knockout because okay.
So Rigondeaux, he was scuffling with Moises Flores, and then at the last 2 seconds of the round, and here's what I saw. I saw Rigondeaux's left hand kind of like, holding in Moises Flores' head and getting 3 punches in. That's illegal. Those 3 punches are illegal. But that's not the story. The story was that as soon as the bell rang, Rigondeaux took a wild punch to Moises Flores, and Flores just went down and didn't get back up. Referee stopped the fight. Originally, it looked like that was going to be ruled a no contest. It was at first being called by the referee an illegal hit, but after deliberating and debating with Bob Bennett, the chairman of the Nevada State Athletic Commission,
the executive chairman, he likes being called the executive chairman. He corrected Jim Lampley a couple times.
So yeah, and after much deliberation, after careful analysis, it was ruled a legal hit, and Rigondeaux won the fight, retained the title at super bantamweight, and here's it gets interesting. So Bob Bennett, being interviewed by Jim Lampley goes out and tells him, "Hey, our charts are telling me that Rigondeaux clearly hit Flores after the bell." And then he was unequivocally, because that's the key word. That was the word of the night, unequivocally. Because Bob Bennett said unequivocally Rigondeaux had hit Flores before the bell rang. And then 2 minutes later came at it. I didn't see any replay with audio. So all I saw was the video, no audio. And Jim Lampley straight up tells him, our guys are telling me it was plain obvious that Rigondeaux landed a dirty blow. And so after Jim Lampley somehow manages to convince Bob Bennett that, what everybody saw, they said, maybe we'll take a look at it, and did confirm that if the commission did think, after careful evaluation much later on, that Rigondeaux did get an illegal hit, it would be a DQ win for Moises Flores.
What are your thoughts?
For you following my either my Twitter or the Fightful MMA Twitter, you'll know what my thoughts. That was a clearly illegal hit. I don't think it was dirty, because I think that was more of a heat of the moment type of deal. but the rule clearly stated, and Harold Letterman even said it. He was reading the rule. It said if a fighter gets knocked out after the bell and he is injured to the point where the fight has to be stopped before the end of the 4th round, it has to be ruled a no contest. That didn't happen. The DQ didn't happen. All we got was a straight up legal, at least by the definition of what Bob Bennett said, legal knockout win for Guillermo Rigondeaux. I didn't think it was legal at all. I'm pretty sure everybody would agree with me, and I'm pretty sure Bob Bennett now would agree with me after actually watching a proper replay with audio on it. But I didn't think it was intentional, nor was it dirty, but it was clearly illegal, and it should have been, at worst, a no contest, and I think it should be a DQ win for Moises Flores.
Now, first, it should have been a disqualification. If you're going to look at the letter of what a disqualification, how you get disqualified in boxing. Remember when Roy Jones lost to Montel Griffin? Shot was after the bell. Roy Jones got disqualified. There's a reason Roy Jones acted like a schmuck in that fight tonight. Roy Jones, I thought, had a very bad night tonight. And I'm a big fan of Roy Jones' commentating. But this is kind of where Roy's like, Flores did this on purpose. Not even seeing Paulie Malignaggi, another joker. And another joker in my mind, another one of the bandwagon jumpers in boxing. And some respected reporters, which I was quite surprised by. And I'm not going to name names because I respect them greatly and they're friends of mine and that were at the fight, covering the fight. And even saying that Flores flopped. First of all, get that garbage out of here. That is absolutely ridiculous. I've seen a lot. I've been watching fights for over 30 years. I've been covering this for a living for over 7. You know when someone flops? Watch a game of hockey. Watch the NBA. That wasn't a flop. First, the 3 shots were illegal. And if you can't tell me, I forget how you say his last name.
Rigondeaux. At least that's
Rigondeaux.
how
I'm gonna call him GR. I don't want to butcher his last name. GR. Blatant as day. You can't, okay, the first shot behind the head, okay, I could say that's a mistake. Cool, I get it. But when you do it 3 times, you know what the hell you're doing. 2 times, you know what the hell you're doing. The 3rd time, you're looking to hurt somebody, and the referee's not paying attention. Shame on the referee. That referee was pretty bad, too, by the way. He's not exhumed from the criticism here. Then they were both swinging. And when the bell sounded, they were swinging. Flores didn't hit. GR's did. And he was wobbled. If the referee's not right there, he's face planted like Ric Flair. But that legit hurt. That was a hard freaking uppercut. I don't care what how about Roy Jones stands right there and takes an uppercut and see how that is. Roy Jones has done some head face plants. Remember the second Antonio Tarver fight? So I don't want to hear Roy Jones and his commentary saying, well, he was flopping. Get the hell out of here, Roy. I respect the hell out of you, and I talk to you. But I don't agree with you whatsoever. But that should not have taken that long. Where was Bob Bennett? And no one's really talking about that. Bob Bennett even admitted he wasn't watching the fight. You are the executive chairman of this commission. The most powerful commission in sports, in all boxing, and in all combat sports. You need to be cage side. I didn't see Bob Bennett there until the main event. Where the hell was Bob Bennett? That's a first mistake. Referee shouldn't have taken it long. I gave the ref credit. He looked at the replay. I still don't know what he was looking at in the replay. That was a pretty clear as day. It was after the bell. I saw it from sitting at home. I know you saw it sitting there watching at home. I know the hundreds of thousands of fans watching around the world saw the same thing. My phone blew up when that happened. It was like, what the hell just happened? Why isn't that a disqualification? Those are from non-boxing fans, casual fans watching tonight. A shame by Bob Bennett, shame by the referee, shame by Rigondeaux. He should be disqualified. He knew what he was doing. I don't care. They both knew they were throwing punches. Plain and simple. I think Flores was pissed because of the illegal shots, and the referee sat there with a thumb up his butt. And I know I'm getting a little heated here, and I know I'm not supposed to get heated, but this is also a podcast, and at first we're fans. And the wrong decision was made here. If it was a no contest, okay, I could have went along with it. I would have gotten it, okay? Makes sense. Still should be a disqualification, but if you went to no like he was originally going to do, talking to Bob Bennett, he was going to call a no contest. Bad decision, and good job by HBO. I don't give HBO too much credit, but I thought Jim Lampley and Max Kellerman did a really great job in that situation. Roy Jones, put another fighter in that broadcast team. I'm done with Roy Jones. Put Andre Ward in there. Andre Ward, I thought, did a good job with HBO about a year and a half ago. Put him back in there. Or George Foreman. I thought George did a good job too. But when Bob Bennett has an earpiece and says, I still can't hear the bell, and the executive producer of the broadcast says, yes, it happened. Who the hell was Bob Bennett talking to in that situation? Not the executive producer. And we'll get into Bob Bennett later on because I want to touch on something with Mayweather and McGregor that I do want to get to. But Bob Bennett once again disgraced himself this evening. So, it should have been a DQ. Hopefully, Flores' team files a protest because he doesn't deserve a loss. It should be a DQ, and we should see a rematch later on this year. But an absurdity in the co-main event. I hated even typing that Rigondeaux was the winner. That bothered me immensely. And he was winning the fight. He didn't even need to do that. Carlos, that's a sad part about it. He was winning the fight. Sorry for that long rant, but stuff like that in this sport, in combat sports, really pisses me off. It's stuff like this that hurts the sport. You're saying, oh, I'm looking out for the safety of the fighters. You just showed right there. That call this evening. And Bob Biden even said to Jim Lampley, oh, we're looking out for the safety of the fighters. Well, if you were looking out for the safety of the fighters, Bob, this wouldn't have happened. You would have called a DQ or a no contest.
I do have one thing to say is that this is the same man that approved an 0-0 boxer to fight arguably the defense boxer of this generation.
We're getting it. I want to, before we get off this podcast, there was something I read, and it was a very good article yesterday that I read, and it kind of alludes to this. So we'll keep going, and then we'll talk about that because it was something pretty absurd that I read.
So here's the thing that I never understood about when they made that call. Listen, I wouldn't have, no matter what you would have told me, a KO win for GR was not the right call. But even then, when you were making that call, you could have spun it around in a way where both guys were throwing hands, and in that situation, and I give Max Kellerman a lot of credit because he was exploring all the possibility they might be thinking for a KO win for GR, is that both guys were throwing hands. At that point, even though after the bell, it could be interpreted by the referee, it was protect yourselves at all times. They didn't even explain, the referee didn't even explain that part. And even then, even though I still would have called BS on it being a KO win for GR, I would have at the very least understood the reasoning behind it. But no, it was the wrong decision with the completely wrong reasoning.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And by the way, Max Kellerman's phenomenal. I've never had a conversation with Max Kellerman, but you sit and listen. That's why I'm also a really big fan of Al Bernstein. Because the way they break it down for the casual fan, and that's how you have to serve. You got to remember, the hardcores are already going to watch, but you don't know how much of the casual fan is going to watch. I thought Max Kellerman did a hell of a job. He really, really did. And the way he broke it down, it broke the nuances of the entire situation, I thought was really well done. It's not his fault. Bob Bennett's I like Bob. And I had very good conversations with Bob Bennett. I think, I think he really is looking out for the betterment of the sport. But his judgment lately on things, woo! And he's on it. Bob Bennett hasn't had a good week. I don't think he's going to sleep too well tonight. I think he's going to have a glass of scotch on the rocks this evening. I'm going to guarantee it. And that cup's going to be, and that glass is going to be pretty full.
So on our live chat, and thanks for everybody that's tuning in right now to the live chat. Pooper T says McGregor should KO Mayweather after the bell then. Hey, that's a legitimate strategy. If the review ends up still saying that it's a KO win for Rigondeaux, why not?
Say that one more time. I just saw something that's not. There's a lot of nonsense going on at the Kovalev Ward presser, so I'm trying to keep up on that too. But say that one more time.
No, I say someone on our live chat, Pooper T, saying, I'm paraphrasing, like basically if this is legal, then McGregor should KO Mayweather after the bell when they fight.
First of all, I love the name. Name's fantastic. Hopefully that means you hate Booker T, my friend. That's the one thing I am hoping for. But no, I can guarantee Conor McGregor. I did reach out to his management team tonight, and I was able to confirm someone from inside his camp was watching the fight tonight. I don't know if it was him directly. His team wouldn't tell me. His manager, Audi Attar, wouldn't tell me. But there was someone in the McGregor boxing camp watching this fight tonight in particular. So maybe. Who knows? You never know. It'd be funny. Not a bad strategy either.
So you wanted to discuss something right before we head into the main event.
Oh no, we'll get to that after. We've got to give this main event some time, the time it deserves.
All right. So Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev for the unified light heavyweight title. This was a pretty good match, pretty good main event. Kind of a weird finish, but we'll get to the finish in just a second. I'm actually very curious because the big story about heading into this fight was the scoring, how people were going to score this fight. In the first 7 rounds of this fight, I had all over my timeline different scorecards. I had people giving Kovalev winning by 2 rounds. I had some had Ward winning by 1 round. It was very, very. It was very divisive. This was a harder fight to judge, in my opinion, than the first fight. But I thought it was a very good fight. I had, if I'm not mistaken, I had Ward winning after 7 by that point. I don't know what your scorecard said at that point.
I had Kovalev up around. I had him up 67, 66, 4 rounds to 3. I could have even made a case that it could have been the one scorecard where it was 68, 65. I would have went that route too. You could see it because I thought there was a round that I thought Kovalev. I felt pretty confident Kovalev won, and then Ward came on at the end of the round, and I think it was the 5th round. I think it was. Yeah, the 5th round. And I thought Kovalev didn't. Ward had a little spurt at the end, and I'm like, I'll give it to Ward. But that was a round I was really heavily leaning towards Kovalev. So I had 67, 66, Carlos, but it could have been as high as 68, 65 for Kovalev. On my cards, anyway. But like you said, cards were all over the place.
So Glenn Feldman and Dave Moretti, 2 of the 3 judges in Las Vegas, had Ward up 67, 66 like I had. Steve Weisfeld was the only one that gave Kovalev the win at that point, 68, 65. And really, you know what? Even though I had Ward winning at that point, I can really understand why Steve Weisfeld, and you for that matter, would be giving more rounds to Kovalev. Is that, listen, for the most part, Kovalev was the aggressor, and a lot of the rounds were very, very close. And in those type of situations, you would normally tend to award the round to the guy that was more aggressive. Andre Ward was landing his shots here and there. He got a few really good shots that hurt Kovalev. I think it was right around the 4th round, and I gave that round to Ward. But the thing is, Ward was stepping back for the most part, even from the beginning of the fight. The moment the bell rang for the 1st round, Ward was, almost skipping around the entire ring. It was not until maybe 15 seconds until Kovalev landed the first hit, which was a very good body shot to with I believe it was a left hook. And Kovalev, he looked really good. There was a couple of rounds where he just looked outstanding on a technical sense, especially that 2nd round where he was just out jabbing Ward. And I thought he should have done more of that later on in the fight, because the jab was working in the 2nd round, even little bits and pieces of the 3rd round. Even though I thought Ward won the 3rd round. Overall, I thought Kovalev did not do himself any favors by doing what was working for him throughout the fight. He didn't look as tired or exhausted or gassed as he was at that point in the 1st fight. But it was clearly, I thought, in my opinion, it was obvious that Ward was starting to gain some momentum, kind of like what happened in the 2nd and the 1st fight.
I really liked how Kovalev started going right to the body. I thought that was something he needed to do, and I thought it was really imperative for him to go there. And I disagreed with you about the 3rd round. I thought he had done enough to win the 3rd, and then I thought Ward really came around the 4th and the 5th. He started landing the left hook. He started going more to the body. And I'm like, if Andre Ward was going to win, he had to go back to the body and he had to be more active. But even though he won those 2 rounds, they were close rounds because Kovalev was still really active. But then I thought going into the 6th round, both guys looked really tired. They kept saying, how tired Kovalev was. There was a lot of moments in that 6th and 7th round when Ward had his mouth open and breathing heavy. So this wasn't like it's just tired. They were both tired. They were hitting each other with the heavy artillery. They weren't messing around. But I thought Kovalev won the 6th. I think Ward then made it a very focal point. I'm going to do what I did in the 2nd half of what I did in the last fight. Start pounding the body. And you really started to see how that affected Kovalev. And then what happened in the 8th round? You have to really go there. And I thought those straight right hands. I thought he earned Kovalev's respect. I think it was in I want to say the 4th round. He landed a really good, solid right hand. I'm like, okay. I'm like, Andre, he was establishing, okay, I can hit too. I didn't agree with the stoppage. I wasn't a fan of the stoppage. I think Tony Weeks, for the most part, I thought had a pretty good night. But I know people are going to kill me for this, but I don't care what people say. I've watched enough fights to know those are some low blows. There was a low blow at the end of the 6th, and Tony Weeks didn't do a damn thing. And I'm like, Tony, that would have been the 3rd time. You would have had to deduct a point. Another low blow. The low blows, I thought, really, and not to take anything away from Andre Ward, but when another low blow that sets everything up in that 8th, after it was a body shot. No, it was a right hand, a right hand to the body, and then it was the low. Then people are like, it's borderline. If more than half the gloves hitting below the belt, it's a low blow. Sorry to disappoint people. Let it go. And you can tell it affected Kovalev. And give Ward credit. Ward saw it and Ward pounced on it and Ward turned it on. The last one, that Kovalev kind of went, Man, that was pretty south of the border, my friend. That was like the tip of Mexico end of the border. South of the border. But you give Andre Ward credit. He did something many people didn't think he could do. If Tony Weeks didn't stop it, would Kovalev have came back? I don't know. You don't know. I say everyone, all the keyboard warriors on Twitter, reporters, he was done. He didn't look good. But Kovalev didn't look good for like the last 3 rounds of the fight. And he was still coming back and winning rounds. So we don't know. I would have liked to see it continue and have a definitive conclusion. Props to Andre Ward. give props to Sergey Kovalev. This was an amazing fight. You give credit to both guys. And Andre Ward is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world today.
Yeah, that seems to be that was a key point after the fight when Max Kellerman was talking with Andre Ward. Is that, I guess he is the definitive pound-for-pound guy because Chocolatito, he lost back in March. And we don't know about Canelo. We don't know about Gennady Golovkin. We still don't know. Once that fight is done, then maybe we can have, I guess, a better idea. But at the moment, I guess I would agree that Andre Ward is the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world. I mean, I think this was the most surprising finish. Ward by stoppage.
Yeah.
Made a fight in the middle round, not even in the championship rounds.
And that's very impressive. Because you remember going into the fight, Andre Ward only had 15 wins by knockout or TKO. He's not known as a power puncher. He's more of, I don't like saying the word grinder, but he's a very technical boxer. He listens to Virgil Hunter very well. And it showed in the fight. And I've been reading some of the quotes, kind of just scrolling on Twitter, and I've been getting some of the quotes in an email. Virgil Hunter told him, we got to start pounding the body more. Pound the body. He's getting tired. They were both tired. But it looked, out of the two, I thought Andre Ward was the fresher fighter. He really was. And you have to give him credit. He's the best fighter in the world. He's only fought the best. More often than not, Andre Ward's facing the best fighter. Regardless of what we think of him and how he handles himself. Does he still handle himself pretty badly? Absolutely. Could he be promoted better? Absolutely. Is that mostly his fault? You're damn right it is. I think he needs to get rid of the clowns at Rock Nation. And there's a lot going on within Rock Nation, and we'll talk about that in a moment, too. I got some breaking news for you. But it's just one of these things to where he is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world today. He should be promoted as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world today. If I'm Andre Ward, and this is just me, and I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but if Andre Ward wants to get the respect he deserves, he needs to go sign with Mayweather Promotions. Because he will get promoted properly. I really do. Look at what he's done for Gervonta Davis already. Look at what he's done for Badu Jack coming off a loss. Regardless of what we think, is going to fight for a world title, more than likely fight Nathan Cleverly on August the 26th. That's not a bad deal coming off a loss and fighting for a world title. And Badu Jack's very popular, and so is Gervonta Davis is going to be a superstar. I think he's got superstar potential. So if Andre Ward's going to make the move, get rid of the clowns who should have been taking care of you, and go to another set of clowns who will actually do the job correctly.
And I don't want to deviate too much from the main event, but I wanted to point this out that I thought was really hilarious. And I absolutely love the HBO screens that they do right before the pay-per-view starts. They would show a couple of fights. I love it, not because the fights are good, not because they're exciting or you get to see up-and-coming prospects, but I love it just for how absolutely horrible the presentation was. On two separate occasions, they were showing the audio of either a promo package for the pay-per-view or the replay of a fight. We got to hear it, but we never actually got to see it. All we saw was the empty ring as the tech guys never put the video. All we could hear is the audio, and I thought that was just so bad. And this happened in the Gennady Golovkin Daniel Jacobs pay-per-view. So I don't know if this is whoever's working the production truck on these undercard. They need to get fired. Because my God, that was horrible.
I did not watch. I saw your tweet though. I saw you had a tweet up about it. That bad?
Oh my God, it was weird because the second fight, I believe it was the second fight. I'm gonna try to look to be 100% sure, but I believe it was the second fight where the fight ended in a stoppage, but the finish itself It was very disputed because I believe that was Tremaine Williams versus Christopher Martin, if I am not mistaken. And I will check really quickly, but while I check. So basically what happened was Tremaine Williams against Christopher Martin. Tremaine Williams was doing excellent boxing. He was, his jab was working, his body shots were incredible, and it almost looked like that Martin was going to get knocked out. And the referee, which was Kenny Bayless, he stopped the fight midway through the second round, and then Christopher Martin threw the biggest temper tantrum I've ever seen a boxer do on television, where the moment they stopped the fight, Christopher Martin was jumping and running all over the ring like a spoiled little kid, angry of the fact that his fight was stopped. And for those who don't know who Christopher Martin is, his resume is actually not that bad in terms of who he's fought. He's fought Johnny Gonzalez. He's fought Gary Russell Jr. He's a former WBO, NABO champion, 30-win veteran. And he just looked like a complete amateur, like an inexperienced amateur, very unprofessional. That whole 2 hours was just a complete waste.
I feel bad you have to watch. I feel it's the only bad thing, and you've covered fights live, and so have I. And those are the worst things in the world is covering. It's a lot of those fights. Some of them are just petulant to watch, and or often than not, it's like I just go walk off, sit in the media room, and grab a drink, grab a cookie. I try not to watch those. Those sometimes are just head scratchers. Not gonna lie.
Oh, I don't know. And one last thing I want to say about this. When they were about to start that fight, and they wanted to get the ring announcer to start the fight, there was an alarm sounding on the Mandalay Bay Arena, clearly hearing. And I was watching the Spanish broadcaster on that stream, and they were like, "Where's this alarm sounding off? This is like a fire alarm? Like, what's going on?" This was an alarm that everybody could hear. I could clearly heard it. It was going on for like 30 seconds, and I thought, is there fire or something? Are they gonna evacuate some people, or was someone pulling a prank? Those were some of the most Bush League 2 hours I've ever seen HBO do a live boxing broadcast. It looked a lot of people should get fired after tonight.
I think one HBO guy that should get fired, and he was commentating. And by the way, let's get back to the main event. And I put this on Twitter, and I just got a text message about this. It seemed like Roy Jones was. It seemed like I want you to answer this for me. Did it appear to you that it seemed like Roy Jones was on the Andre Ward payroll? I couldn't have seen a bigger cheerleader tonight for Andre Ward than Roy Jones. Was that just me? Because don't get me wrong, Ward looked awesome. Andre Ward performed great. He boxed a great fight, and he won the fight. But man, I don't know. Yeah, Roy Jones acting like this guy's like the next Sugar Ray Robinson. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, look, Roy Jones had never really been my favorite commentator on HBO. By far, the one I like the least after Jim Lampley and Max Kellerman and Harold Letterman. And even then, I have a couple of words of disagreement with Harold Letterman because I didn't agree with some of the judging he had in that fight, but that's neither here nor there. I thought Roy Jones was a little bit too much of a homer, and it just seems Roy Jones has these tendencies to either be on someone's camp, like be completely biased towards him, or kind of downgrade a little bit what Max Kellerman or Jim Lampley says and say, like, well, this happened to me so-and-so years ago. I clearly know more about this because I felt it, and your guys' opinion don't really matter that much. I feel like Roy Jones doesn't really have a ton of great chemistry with Max Kellerman and Jim Lampley, even though Roy Jones has been doing this for a while.
That's why when you're commentating, you're supposed to be unbiased and call it like you see it. I just don't think Roy does that. He really doesn't. That's why I really love Max Kellerman. And, that's why I'm not a big fan of Paulie Malignaggi. You know what? I respect Paulie and I respect Roy for getting in there and putting themselves on the line. And I know they'll make the argument, well, you never stepped in the ring. I'm like, you know what? But you're not a journalist. So it's a double-edged sword in that situation. And, both sides have arguments. But I thought Roy did a bad job tonight. It really seemed like he was just pro-Ward. And I know him and Ward are buddies. And I know that, and I think that's pretty abundantly clear if you didn't know that by now. But you got to call it down the middle. Kovalev landed a lot of good shots. Andre Ward landed a lot of good shots. Andre Ward landed the more effective shots to win the fight. And you have to give credit where credit is due, whether you agree with the call or not. Do I think the fight should have continued? Yeah. Because I think then Andre Ward, could have made it more than abundantly clear. He was on his way to winning. I'm not going to say he wasn't going to win. He more than likely, he had about a 75% chance of 80% chance of winning the fight. The fight was pretty much his. But I would have liked to see a fight not influenced a little bit by the referees. I want a nice, clean fight. Call everything down the middle. Be consistent. Don't call low blows in the beginning of the fight. But then when you get to the latter half of the fight and you see the same thing, come on. There's only one of those 3 body shots when he had Kovalev against the ropes. Only one of those was a very, really solid, right in the body, hard body shot. Or 2 of the 3, I take it back. But the one that finished it was south of the border, and we've seen what happened. But he was on his way to winning. But I would like to see a more definitive ending. That's kind of really my view on that. And he's the best fighter in the world. Plain and simple. You got to give him his credit. Does Andre Ward put his foot in his mouth? Absolutely. He does. Does he get the credit he should be getting? No. But I think that's also his own fault. This is an age of where just being a great fighter is going to sell pay-per-views. Not just being the best in the world is going to make you money. He should be getting more than $6.5 million a fight. He should be in a $20 to $25 million conversation. He should be. But when him and his team, he doesn't promote himself right, and his team around him doesn't promote him right, I can't feel bad for him. He says he's content. You should never be content. You're the best fighter in the world, and that's that.
Did it seem to me, I don't know if you've been following boxers and journalists throughout the fight, but the way I kind of saw it is a lot of boxers, and I think this goes along with the whole Roy Jones being biased towards Andre Ward. It seemed like a lot of the boxers that I was following, like Sergio Mora, Zap Judah, Cornelius Bunridge, and a few others, and I don't know what's up with I don't know if my comment just scared off Steven, but basically back to my point was, if it almost seemed like to me, the boxers were way into Andre Ward, and the journalists like Kevin Iole and Dan Rayfield, they were all in Kovalev's camp, not being biased towards him, but they kind of saw the fight towards Kovalev. And everything all right there, Steven?
Yes. Repeat that one more time. My computer was about to die, and I didn't have my outlet plugged in. Say that one more. I only heard the latter half about Dan Rayfield and Sergey Kovalev.
But basically, okay, yeah. Basically, to summarize, I kind of saw on my Twitter timeline that a lot of the boxers had Ward winning the fight up to that point, and a lot of journalists had Kovalev winning that fight. I don't know if you sort of noticed that trend, or it was just coincidence.
I did, yeah. I saw a couple fighters looking that way, but going for Kovalev, but the consensus for fighters was for Andre Ward, and I saw a couple journalists only had to fight for Ward too. So no, you're exactly right.
So right now, now the question seems to be what next for both for both fighters. Adonis Stevenson said on Twitter, "Hey Ward, let's unify these titles once and for all." The Ward would absolutely destroy Stevenson. He would get a much lower pay grade, and I don't even know if this would even be on pay-per-view because Stevenson is not a pay-per-view draw. And Max Killen was asking him what's next, and then Ward was kind of joking he would move to cruiserweight, maybe go to heavyweight. I guess he was just kind of excited about the win, but
no. He's talking about it. Virgil Hunter, during the press conference, I've been kind of following Twitter and looking and kind of scrolling while we're talking here. Virgil Hunter, Ward's trainer, said Andre Ward, because I know Ward, talking to people in Ward's camp, I know they had thought about after this fight going up to cruiserweight. And Ward brought it up during the interview with Max Kellerman. But Virgil Hunter, Andre Ward's longtime trainer, father-like figure, said, why not you just go to heavyweight? Forget cruiserweight, go up to heavyweight and fight Anthony Joshua.
That's a very big jump that very few boxers have been able to do that successfully. I know Ward's been saying that he's kind of been wanting to move up to another weight class for a while now. I say, I don't know. I would say try out the cruiserweight division. Maybe not try to win titles and be the world champion at cruiserweight, but at least make sure you can fight comfortably at, I believe it's 185 or 190 for the cruiserweight.
190, yeah.
Yeah, 190. Although I would actually really like an Andre Ward Alexander Usyk fight. I think that would actually be a really damn good fight. But if he wants to go to heavyweight and think about fighting Anthony Joshua, first of all, get in line because a lot of other heavyweights that deserve a shot at Joshua before we even get to Andre Ward. But if that's what the plan is, because let's face it, after Adonis Stevenson and maybe Dimitri Bivol, what do you really have? Joe Smith Jr.? I don't know if he's able to. Joe Smith Jr. fight would make sense if they were able to capitalize on the momentum he got from the Bernard Hopkins fight, but now he's fighting Sullivan Barrera, which is a huge step down from fighting Bernard Hopkins in terms of more key matchups.
But that's not the fault of Joe Smith, though. That's really not, because I know, and I talked to Joe Smith, and we'll have something up on Fightful around that time of the fight. But they were looking for big fights. This wasn't. And it is a step down. You're 110% correct. They were looking for bigger fights. But, Stevenson was clogged up. Ward and Kovalev were bogged down. Nathan Cleverly wasn't interested just yet. It seemed like they're going to be making the fight with Badu Jack. So, the upper echelon was really clogged up here. The Barrera fight is more of in Joe Smith's mind, is a keep busy fight. And that was kind of how he was really viewing it. So, maybe I don't think Ward wants nothing to do with Dimitri Bivol. I really don't. I think he's going to kind of, and I get it. If he stays at light heavyweight, I think he kind of stays out of the way. If Joe Smith can win on July 15th, I'd love to see Andre Ward and Joe Smith. I think that would be a great fight. I wouldn't even mind seeing Adonis Stevenson. I think Andre Ward needs to clean out the light heavyweight division. Either fight Adonis Stevenson or fight even Joe Smith. Fight one of those guys next, or even if you really want to be the undisputed champion, like he was at super middleweight, clean out the weight class. Clean it out, get all the belts, and then bounce. I don't know if he's going to do that. He does a lot of things unconventional. So we'll see what happens. Oh, and he just said no third fight. That's out. There was no rematch clause for this fight. There wasn't. Kovalev's camp told me the same thing. Andre Ward isn't lying. Now there definitely makes no sense for a third fight. It wasn't going to happen anyway. This was a rough road. And I think Rock Nation and main events, Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev are glad to be done with each other. They weren't happy with each other. It was a horrible marriage. I think Rock Nation, handled things pretty poorly in both sequences leading up to the fight. I don't like how Sergey Kovalev acted after the fight. I wasn't a fan of that, Carlos. I really wasn't. You lost. You should be giving Andre Ward his credit that he deserves. He didn't do it. And I thought that was pretty bad. He's blaming low blows, and okay, yeah, they were low. But you should still give credit to where credit's due. I was pretty disappointed by Sergey Kovalev.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I want to say that he kind of got unlucky in these two fights with the decision, and the first one, and with what some people would call an early stoppage. But at this point, I think I'm comfortable saying that Andre Ward is a better boxer over Kovalev. Kovalev is probably the harder puncher, but I think all around, I think Ward is the best boxer in the light heavyweight and probably the best boxer pound for pound.
No, there's no doubt about it. Pound for pound, Andre Ward's the best fighter in the world today. I wouldn't mind seeing. I would like to see him stay at light heavyweight for a little bit, though. I think could he kick? The money would be at heavyweight. I get it, but those are, like you said earlier, those are monsters. Do you want some of Joseph Parker? Do you want any of Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, Vladimir Klitschko? Come on. He says, in first round, there's like, he can box him to death. Get the hell. One shot by Anthony Joshua, and Andre Ward would get sent back to California. Sorry. That plain and simple, that will not happen. Andre Ward needs to stay at either light heavyweight or go up to cruiserweight. I think there's more money in light heavyweight right now. I don't see big money fights. Good fights at cruiserweight, but not money-making fights at cruiserweight.
So now we're getting close on time. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, Steven, right before we get off?
No, I thought a very good night. We saw some stars. We saw a star. I see two guys on the rise. I think Bival's got, a really great chance to be a superstar. I think he's going to be the heir apparent at 175 pounds. Now that could be a guy one day I could see going up to cruiserweight or heavyweight. He's got the frame to do it. I would like to see a rematch with Rigondeaux and Flores. I think that was just garbage. Should have been disqualification, just like you said, for the hits behind the head, and then the uppercut after the bell sounded. Then Andre Ward, one of the classier guys in the sport, pound for pound, the best fighter in the world today. Hopefully now, Andre Ward will get the credit he deserves, and hopefully now Andre Ward, and I said this to a boxing journalist moments ago, hopefully now he opens up. Let people in. He's got a pretty cool story. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't flaunt his money. He's a married man with 4 kids. He's a family man. He's very big into religion. That's a guy who should be the center of the sport, not a guy who owns strip clubs and throws money degrading strippers and beating women and verbally abusing his children. We have a guy like Andre Ward. And hopefully one day, Andre Ward will see the light and realize he should be getting the credit he does deserve and lets people in just a little.
And we're gonna wrap things up. But before I do, right now, Fight News crew on our live chat probably had the best comment of the week. I don't care what was said on all the other Fightful podcasts. This is what this Fight News crew said. Winner by TKO. Testicles knockout.
Hey, do we have time for any questions, or do we have to go?
We don't really have a lot of questions outside of Thomas Mahoney saying, why did the referee stop the fight, referring to the Ward Kovalev fight. But I think we kind of dissect that pretty well.
Okay. No, I was just seeing if it was just all comments, if we had any more questions, or
no, but we got a good crowd. We got a good crowd tuning in. So thank you so much for coming in and checking out our podcast, our humble little podcast that's keep growing and then growing thanks to all of you guys. You can leave us a thumbs up here on the YouTube page. Go to iTunes, leave us a good review, Stitcher, all the other podcast sites that I have absolutely no idea because I'm not a tech-savvy 23-year-old as I should be. I'm not.
Wait, you're 22 years old and not tech-savvy? God, I know 14-year-olds that are savvy. Come on, Bieber. Come on, Bieber.
No, you can't say that anymore. You can't say that anymore.
I can because you're not tech-savvy. I know 14-year-olds that know who are pretty tech-savvy. You know how to use iPads and cell phones and know how to take selfies and shoot video. Come on, Toro. Come on, Bieber. One time.
No. I'm
Disappointed.
gonna stick on my on the hippity hop records and on my 8-track.
Hashtag 8-track.
Follow me on Twitter at CarlosToro360 and Steven at S Muehlhausen MMA. That's SMUEHLHAUSEN MMA. And once again, thank you so much for joining the Fightful Boxing Podcast. We'll see you when we see you. Have a good night, everybody. And happy Father's Day to everybody listening and all the fathers out there, especially you, Steven.
Thank you very much. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
And with that, we're out.